The street is where we create. We call it suburbanpreneurship.
Mixing big company resources with an entrepreneurial spirit.
This is Electric People.
Hey everybody, I'm super excited for our guest today on Electric People. We have Ashley Lograsso. She is a market leader in the Boston North office, and I'm joined with Don Gomez as well, director of Syndicate, and he works directly with Ashley. Been working with her since day one, right?
Yep.
Since day one.
2021.
Yes.
Time flies.
So Ashley's awesome. And the thing that I am really excited to kind of talk through today is she's had a very steady progression with this job, I would say. I think you started out like reasonably decent, enough success to stick around, but you just kind of progressively got better and better and better over time. And I would say you're still progressing and you're still getting better. I mean, you just are coming off some of the best quarters you've ever had in your career. You've been with us for 3.5 years now.
It'll be 3 years in December.
3 years in December. And you're still getting better. And so I think that's one piece that I wanted to talk through today. You have a really cool story. I mean, you grew up in East Boston, and I'm not a Boston native, so I'm not going to act like I am. But what do the locals call it? Eastie?
Eastie.
They call it Eastie. She's an Eastie girl.
I am.
Don, what's the reputation with Eastie girls? Are they good girls? What's the story?
East Boston. I lived in East Boston for a total of 4 months when I first came to the U.S., and my brother got me the heck out of there.
It's a rough. That's a rough spot.
But it was bad back in the day.
It was bad.
Right?
Yeah.
What's bad? Just drugs, gangs. What's bad?
Where I grew up, just my area. There's certain parts of East Boston. Just a lot of gangs.
Yeah.
So when I was in middle school, there was a lot of gangs, 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds pregnant, fights. It felt like you're in high school, but you're in 6th grade. So there was a lot of that. Just many different experiences.
Do you have siblings?
I have 10 half siblings.
10 half siblings?
Yeah.
How many different parents and stuff? Yeah.
5.
5. So 5.
Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to wrap my mind around
do
it.
that math right now.
It's a lot.
So your mom has how many kids?
Just me.
Just you?
Yeah.
Okay. But your dad has kids with 4 other women? 4 other women,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see. Okay. And what's your relationship like with your dad?
So we've had a very rocky, he was addicted to drugs really young.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just his birthday. So we had a nice talk on
You
the
still
phone.
talk to him?
Yeah, he's in prison. But I'm just so grateful because he's such a smart guy. He's just made really bad decisions, But I love my dad. Things happen. Can't really be mad at someone for their environment. Some people.
Did he grow up in East Boston too, or?
Oh, he grew up in the worst city. It's called Fort Pierce, Florida. That's where I was born.
Okay. Where is that? What part of Florida?
She was telling me about that place. It sounds like a movie.
Where is Fort Pierce?
It's about 40 minutes north of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
A lot of drugs. Yeah.
And you were how old when you moved up to Boston?
I was a baby. My mom separated from my dad when I was 1.
Oh, so she had the baby and then she's like, I'm out.
Yeah, she's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. So how old were you when you met your dad?
I think I was 5. We went bowling once. I've met him probably about 7 times.
Ever? Wow.
Yeah.
So how often do you talk to him? I mean, you mentioned he's in jail. How long has he been in jail?
4 years.
Do you know what for?
Yeah, you can Google him. It's his 33rd time getting a felony. So
33rd time.
Yeah, it was on the news. So I don't know. He's a character. Just drugs. Yeah, he was exposed to drugs very young. How lots of us were exposed to drugs and alcohol in the city, that where I was born, that he grew up in, just exposed to drugs and alcohol at 13, 14. Some people can fight that. Some people cannot, and unfortunately he was a product of his environment. And, but I do keep in contact with him. Obviously when he's in prison, he's sober for the most part, that I think. But he's a smart guy. It's just, he was just exposed to things and he doesn't really know how to get out of the rat race.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my biggest fear was being like my dad, being like my mom.
What's your mom like? I'm assuming that she'll probably listen to this episode at some point. So you don't have to talk about her if you don't want to, or you can talk about her as much as you want.
No, I love my mom. She was great. I did move out when I was 14. I was in 9th grade.
You moved out?
Yeah, I left
to like a friend's house or something?
Friend's house, yeah. I left when I was in 9th grade. Very unhealthy, very mentally draining relationship. Lived with my friend from high school. She tried to file a CHINS, which is a child in need of care. They did an investigation.
Your mom did, or your friend's mom?
My mom did. She tried to like get me back home, but like I didn't want to be there for reasons. They filed a 51A against her, which you guys can just Google that. It's just like a neglect thing. But my mom was great. We just didn't have a good relationship. I think she just had her own childhood trauma and issues.
How old was your mom when she had you?
35.
Okay, so she was a little bit older.
Yeah, she was older.
And how old was your dad at that point?
36.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then she moves to Boston, and then she's going through her own thing. And then you're like, I've had enough of this. I'm moving out.
Yeah, it was just too much, like mentally.
So what kind of kid were you in middle school?
I was a really good kid. I was in all like advanced classes until like I had a really bad situation in 6th grade. Like the teachers sucked. Like they were so horrible in Umana, like the school I went to. There was just so many different things that happened. But I was a really good kid up until that teacher like read my diary in front of the whole room.
Oh no.
And from that day,
Why would she read your diary in front of the whole class?
She's like, whose is this? I'm like, it's mine. And she read my diary. And like,
what did it say?
Nothing bad, but I'm like a 6-year-old girl.
But for a girl in 6th grade, it's got to be like
11 years old.
The end of the world.
Yeah.
It was
I mean, I have an 11-year-old in 6th grade right now, so I can imagine how just mortifying she would be.
And you went to the Umana? I went there for a couple of months. Yeah, and the Umana was like a war zone when back in, I'm way older than you, but 98 was, I remember my brother taking me to school and he's like, I got to move to Everett. Like, got to get this kid out of here.
So she reads your diary and just embarrasses you in front of your whole class. And that was the beginning of your villain origin story.
Yes. I lost it.
You were like, screw this.
Oh, screw this. My mom went to the school. She got escorted out by the police.
No way.
Because my mom shut it down. She's like, don't read my kid's diary. It was really bad.
I'd be upset too.
Yeah. And it just changed me completely.
So in what way?
After that, I was just like a take no BS type of person because I was tired of being like bullied. You know, I was bullied in elementary. I feel like everyone was bullied, so I'm not going to pull that card. But that changed me completely. And then getting into high school.
You viewed the world through a different lens at that point.
Cruel. Yeah, it was very cruel.
You're like, I got to have my own back here.
Yeah. So I just took a lot of time like being there for myself, not letting people step all over me because that wasn't necessary. And I just hope that doesn't happen to anyone's child. You know?
Yeah, I'm just imagining like this sweet little Ashley and then the teacher that's so lame.
That's like the end of the world for
That's so lame. I'd be so crushed for my kid if that happened. So, all right. So then you're in high school. I mean, you've turned out, the reason I'm asking you is because you've turned out to be a quite amazing person. And so I'm like, have you just always been this way? Or did you have like a moment where you like went through it as a teenager? I mean, you obviously have like a pretty rough upbringing with just your dad, your mom, your dad in and out of jail. Like, and you were, I'm sure, generally aware of that as a kid growing up too. Like, where's my dad at?
Yeah. There's always like a call from prison. Sometimes he's in, sometimes he's out.
So it's like everything's stacked against you, right? You're like in this environment, Shore Plaza, like what do you see around in Shore Plaza all the time? Just like drugs, just
guns,
all that, right? So you grew up with so many challenges with, you know, with your parents and then school and going to the Umana, living there. But from what I know about you, you did really well with every job you had.
Yeah.
Did you get good grades in high school?
I did and I didn't. For me, like when that happened to me in middle school, I quit all my AP classes. All my advanced classes, I said, screw that, put me in the regular class, don't care. Still passed. And with my mom, like she never really, like she cared, but she didn't care if I went to school. She's like, screw school, you'll be fine. Like I used to graduate with 20, 30 absences every year. So when I went to high school, it was obviously really rocky because I left my mom's house, I was in DCF, but I always passed with 20 to 30 absences.
What's DCF?
Department of Children and Families.
Oh,
So like just child services.
is that like foster home? Like what's?
Yeah, it's a foster home. I was blessed enough I didn't have to go to a foster home.
They just check for the child's well-being.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's like someone from the government's like, we're gonna make sure this kid's doing okay.
Yeah. Weekly visits, right?
Well, yeah. So like when I lived with my friend, I love her. Her name's Gladys. I lived with her and her dad. They took care of me for like a year. My mom filed the chins. And when they filed the 51A against my mom, it's abuse and neglect. She wasn't like, I love you, nothing personal. When that happened, I was in the foster care room, like in Chelsea, and they had to see where to place me. And thank God for my grandmother, because my grandmother mostly raised me. She had a pull-out couch, and like you can't sleep with your family member. So if my grandmother didn't buy that pull-out couch, I would have been in the system.
Oh.
So I was blessed enough in like 10th grade, live with my grandmother for like a year. And then I saved up money, got an apartment. I had roommates in high school. But from that, I lived with my grandmother, and I was in foster care with them. They helped me pay for my college. I had a really good caseworker who really did also change my life. Melissa, she really helped me. So I had a lot of support. Even my mom was very supportive. It just was inconsistent and emotionally inconsistent for me.
Yeah.
Which was the hard part. And I feel like what made me like successful is like what I don't want to be. Like I didn't want to continue to live in East Boston. I didn't want to continue to just keep seeing these cycles in my family. And I think that's what made me like do well in school. Because when I went to school, yeah, I had a lot of absences because the teachers in East Boston, they all, no offense, they just weren't the best, you know? But I liked school. It just, there was so many different things going on at home that it wasn't easy for me to show up and focus on statistics every day.
Yeah. You also got to put yourself in that, I'm not like taking the teacher's side here, but like you're one of hundreds of kids in a similar situation that they're just trying to wrangle in like stray cats. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to like
in a hostile environment.
In a hostile environment. So they're trying to like, so like they see Ashley at missing school all the time. They're like, okay, but we also have 10 other kids also missing school all the time. We got, your situation's bad, but this kid's situation's way worse.
For sure.
So it's like you're in this really difficult environment to sort of break out of. And you can see how, you know, not to get like political here, but like you can see how these inner city like teenagers and kids have a very tough time like breaking out of the cycle that like happens, right? Because most kids that grow up in that cycle then become a poor performing adult where they start getting into drugs and they break laws, and then they have a kid with somebody who they're not married to, and then it's just like bang, cycle starts over again with a brand new baby, and like through the whole system again. And then those kids don't know any different. That's just all they know is, you know,
their
environment that they're in, and it's like this dysfunction of a family unit, like they've never had it, and so it's like they're just in it. So at some point you're in this system, you decide to go to college and become a nurse.
So I applied at colleges in high school. They denied me because all my absences, and I had C's. I had B's too, but like I got denied. So I went to Bunker Hill. I applied at the nursing program, got denied. So I went to Quincy College. The program shut down. I was like, okay, so I'll just get a biology degree. I need 4 more classes. So I got that, and then I applied at another college, got the degree. I got accepted to the school, and I got a 3.7 GPA, and I got my BSN.
What clicked for you? Like, why all of a sudden start trying harder? Why start taking it more serious? Why you said that motivation to be different from your parents?
I was just in a better environment. It wasn't even like, it was all the same from when I was a kid. I just wasn't in the best environment to be successful with the people around me. Like, I was living on my own when I was in nursing school. Like, and that was a big game changer. Like, I wasn't living with my grandmother, having issues with my mom at my grandmother's house, trying to get past school. Like, I was being a solo adult and able to do what I wanted to do for my life to be successful. Because if you're having people like with bad habits or just not a healthy environment, it's really hard to break away from that and study like 6 hours a day to be a nurse, study for a state exam when you're in a very unhealthy environment.
Yeah.
So I think what changed for me, it was just my environment.
Well, when you're in those unhealthy environments, I'm thinking about like reps on teams too, especially when they're getting started with us. A lot of it's like the environment of the team, but then also the environment of their home and their personal life. It's like if they have a lot of distractions and a lot of negative influences, like pulling them a million directions and directions that aren't healthy, it becomes very difficult to be successful at this job.
Yeah.
Like you have to have not just a good environment at work, but also a good environment at home to like really be able to focus and be good at this job, you know? So it's like, I'm thinking about just your college, but so you become a nurse. Fast forward, you become a nurse, you're doing the nurse thing.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, you're like, you know what? I think I'd rather go knock doors for a living.
Yeah, I really wasn't a fan.
What happened? How'd your nursing dreams get shattered?
Well, you're asking, so I'm going to tell you. They were just some things they wanted me to do that I didn't want to do.
Like what? You didn't want to change old people's diapers or what? Like
No,
what was the deal?
I cleaned a lot of diapers, I'll tell you.
You did?
I did traumatic brain injury.
Oh no.
It was all poop. But it was a really hard specialty, but that wasn't what it was. It was like they were trying to tell me like
You could say.
I can say it.
Yeah.
It's fine. Oh, okay, I have to get this vaccine by this amount of time, and I'm like, I'm not the type. I've never been the type to do what people tell me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just hasn't really worked out. So I didn't really like that. Didn't really go with my belief system. So I didn't like it, and I like religiously exempted. They didn't approve it. I religiously exempted again. They didn't approve it. So I'm like, all my friends make all this money selling solar. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
What friends?
Felix, Jessica, Felipe. One time I was in Miami in 2020 with like Felipe. Like he went in and bought like some Chrome Hearts thing. I don't even know what Chrome Hearts is. I'm like, this dude spent $5,000 on what? Like I don't even know about these things. And I never knew what they were doing because no one really told me. I had to like ask. So
it's like when you're an outsider, you hear solar and you're like, what is it? What does it even mean?
What are they
But they're
talking
just
about?
spending all this money or making all this money.
I just didn't think it was a big thing. I'm like, cool, these are guys. These are our guy friends. They do well, but I never knew what they do.
Mm.
I went to Umana with Phil, with a few people. Tiago's from East Boston as well. And so I was like, Jess, like, I'm about to come sell solar with you. So I went with Jessica the same day to go apply in Central.
Mm.
Just didn't work out.
She didn't get the job.
I wasn't hired.
They interviewed you
Yeah.
and then they didn't hire you?
No.
Best mistake Felipe has ever done.
Who interviewed you, Phil?
Yeah. He's like, do you have a car? I'm like, yeah. Like, I was driving my mom's car at the time.
Yeah.
But me, like, if I'm going to apply for a job, like, I'm going to be successful. Like, I've worked since I was 13. I've always worked hard. I'm not going to come apply and not do well. Like, and I'm not, like, trying to toot my own horn, but I've never not done well. I've worked in restaurants. I used to move furniture. That was my first job. I learned how to cook at, like, 14. I said I was 16 to get the job. Like, I'm going to come work. Like, but I guess he thought I wanted to still do nursing when I told him I didn't. But I'm like, that's fine, Phil. No hard feelings.
Take your Chrome Hearts hat and get out of here.
Yeah,
Phil,
I'm like,
Felipe.
bro, so much for like Eastie, partnership here.
Yeah.
What type of stuff is that? But whatever.
Brotherhood. What happened to the brother?
What happened? Like, I thought we was cool, bro.
Jess got the job, but you
Jess
didn't
got
get the
the job, I
job.
didn't get the
Oh,
job.
man.
So I called her.
And with her story and just interviewing Carla, there's this element of every successful person that I've been able to work with this company, they faced some type of challenge at the beginning, whether it's Carla not being able to get hired, whether it is Eric Bonorigo, who broke his knee during his interview process. Only Eric would do that. And then Ashley not getting hired. And, she came in, interviewed with North. We gave her the opportunity. And it wasn't easy. I mean, she struggled more than anyone I know and persisted and overcame more than anyone I've worked with starting the job. Broke, no money. And you could tell the story, but just that initial adversity really builds great leaders, and you're a prime example of that.
Yeah, you're forged in fire.
Yeah.
Right. So, how'd you get hired in North?
So I called Jess. I'm like, congrats on the offer. Like, screw me.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. She's like,
That must have been
honest-
hard for you though, right? Because you go interview with a friend, and the friend gets the job, and you.
That happened to me actually in college. One of my first jobs I ever applied for was this like telemarketing company.
Yeah.
It was called Convergys. Do you remember Convergys? Did you guys work there? You did? Omar, production guys. So Convergys is like this huge telemarketing company right down near like all the colleges, and it's like standard first job for like every college kid, right?
Oh, okay.
So anyway, they had us do like this typing test to see how fast we could type. My buddy got hired and I didn't get hired. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like anyone can get hired at this place. Like literally anyone can get hired at this place. And somehow I didn't get hired. And I was like so bugged. And that happened to me another time actually too.
Do they know you're a VP now?
No.
I need the manager's email.
I know. So then
We need to call him.
So then another one when I was my summer after my senior year of high school, my cousin had this idea to get a job at Boston Market, and they were like opening a new Boston Market near where we lived, and we went and interviewed, and he got hired, and I didn't get hired to that either, and I was like, what the heck, dude? I'm like, I can't even get hired at Boston Market, and so anyway. Incidentally, I ultimately did end up getting hired because I went and begged the guy, and I got hired as a meat cutter for Boston Market. Yeah, so first job.
You got something.
But anyway, so all right, so you end up getting hired. You start working in Boston North. You got a chip on your shoulder because you're like, one, I'm gonna destroy Jess, even though she's my bestie. I'm gonna crush Jess because I got to teach Felipe a lesson here.
Honestly, like I love them all. Jess is still like one of my best friends. I wanted to just crush Felipe. I was really pissed off.
You were?
I was extremely hurt. And we talked about it. I have so much love for him, and I have so much love for Tiago. But I was actually really hurt.
Yeah.
I was really hurt because like they knew how it was growing up in East Boston, and like to not give anyone a chance at this opportunity. And for people that like don't take advantage of this opportunity is like, I think it should be like considered a sin. Like, you have to so that was one thing for me. I just had a chip on my shoulder when I started, and I was like, I'm gonna work. And I worked.
Well, you did, and you were working for. She had the same issue that I had when I started. Everybody was canceling. Like she could not. Like Ashley could not sell anyone solar.
What?
Like literally.
That would stick. She would sell them, but they wouldn't stick.
Your first 6 months.
Okay, I was in Melrose. Okay, to start.
No, that's
not the thing, but I was in Melrose. I got things to stick, but I had to learn the learning curve. Yeah, I couldn't get it to install.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
So you were getting a lot of doors. You were having some
Cancels.
success, but they were getting a lot of cancels.
You were living on a credit card, basically.
Yeah, I maxed out all my credit cards, like $20K.
Yeah. How much debt were you in at one point?
Like, I don't know, with student loans and stuff,
Sure.
like 120, 130.
Are you all like paid off now?
Clear as can be.
How
Not even taxes.
Not even, all my taxes are paid for 2024.
Wow.
Yeah.
How good does that feel?
It feels great. You know what you have, and like it's an amazing feeling. It's such a blessing.
What was the day that you got everything just paid off? Do you remember it?
Last week I paid off my student loans.
Really?
Yeah, $50K.
No way.
Yeah.
Just last week.
Yeah.
That's so cool, Ash.
Yeah, it was a
That's
really
pretty
good
awesome.
feeling.
So you got student loans, credit card debt, taxes.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
And like that's I think is the biggest issue when people start. I feel like the reason people quit is because like the finances.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I can't stand this long without a job. But if you stay put, like that's like if you stay put, like you will be okay. Because I got hired December 7th. I got my first welcome call December 21st. The day of the Christmas party, I was like, I don't want to go to this Christmas party with zero. I know I just started, but let me just try and close this lady by myself. So I closed this lady in Melrose by myself. Clearly couldn't get it to install. But that was like the beginning, you know? And it took me, I got my first install in May. So no, like only the training
Hired in December,
pay
first install in May.
in May.
Started in the winter.
Yeah, I actually, going back earlier, I was going to say I have a theory that people that start in the winter actually ultimately end up like being really, really strong at this job. They like make it through the winter and they are, if once they get through that, they're good. But I feel like people that start in the summer, they kind of get, it's like, I don't know how to say it other than like the circumstances are just easier in the summertime and the, you know, the fall. And then if they don't have really good momentum heading into winter, the winter can actually like crush them. So people that start in the wintertime, they just don't know any better. And they just like, they're a little naive. They're super optimistic. They're enthusiastic, and that like carries them through. But then they're prepared for the next winter and the next winter, right? So
well, it's also just not just like the season itself, but like the how much challenges they face at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Because like you see a lot of people come in and they absolutely crush it for their first 3 weeks, and you're like, all right, this is the next shooting star. And out of nowhere, they get 3 cancels and maybe a DQ, and they're like, oh, and that just kind of derails people completely. Where if it's the opposite, if you're like challenged to the highest level when you first start, you forge this fortitude where you're able to sustain more for longer periods of time.
I love the winter. I actually think is one of the best parts about selling solar in Mass or the Northeast in general. Like, you know, pretty much I'd say Maryland on up has pretty cold winters. And the winter is like it's like a filter for like the dud sales reps. The duds don't make it through the winter, and it like filters them out. And so some of these warm weather markets, and I think every market kind of has their, you know, all their advantages. You know, the warm weather markets, it's like the weather never filters out people because it's just kind of always nice. Like it's in San Diego or Florida or wherever, it's like always nice, right? But the winter here actually really filters out the duds. And if you don't have like resolve and you're not determined to be successful, you're not going to make it through the winter. Yeah. So one of my favorite times to visit teams is like April and May of every year, because those are like my people. They're the people that are like the dogs that made it through the winter, right? And those are the people that I love just being around, and they're the people that I love to associate with, are the people that are like really good at just getting through the tough times. So anyway, I had the theory. I was going to bring it up earlier, and I wish I would have, because then when you said you started in December, now it looks like I'm just like cherry picking.
Well,
You
I've heard your
said
theory.
Yeah.
I've always heard your theory about that, and I believe it's true.
Yeah. My question to you is, you started in the winter. It was really tough. Didn't get hired after an interview. Got denied. You didn't care. You tried one more time. You get hired. You struggle. I mean, starting not just in the winter, in December. I mean, her first SRA is December 21st, you said?
21st.
That's when no one's selling, right? And then you come back and you don't make a single penny until May. What are you thinking? What's your thought process? What is your vision at that point?
How much debt were you in at that point?
I had like no money.
No money. So how do you stick it out when you're like, I have no money and I'm straight commission?
Well, thankfully for Shore Plaza, my rent wasn't that expensive. So
how much was it?
I think $400 or $500.
Okay.
Yeah, because
you were in a 1-bedroom by yourself or with roommates, or
1-bedroom by myself.
1-bedroom by yourself. Okay.
And it's income based, so they take 30% of your income.
Oh, so it's like government housing basically.
Yeah, I was on the list for 8 years.
Okay, so and this is a part I actually want to get into, because I think it's a bit of a mindset shift that you've had. So you're in government housing, Shore Plaza, subsidized housing. So they're looking at your income, and they're saying, based on your income, this is what we'll charge you for rent.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. And at the time, you're paying $400 to $500 a month.
Something like that.
But then, as you started making more money, then what happened?
You have to recertify every year, and then after 2022. They asked me to bring my 10-9, like my thing. And my mom raised me well, you know? So I was like, I'm I'm not really sure about this. I might have to leave. I didn't bring them my 1099 is all I'm going to say. Because I just knew they were going to charge me $3,000 a month. And like, if you spend $3,000 a month to live in Shore Plaza, like something's wrong with you. Like,
yeah. Like no one's trying to spend $3,000 a month at Shore Plaza.
No.
Yeah.
Like there's a nice view, but like, that's about it. Like there's absolutely no reason why I'm going to spend that money. But yeah, they were going to raise the rent. It was time to recertify. I think it was the end of 2022, which was like almost my first year. I don't even remember. Time is like flying by, but I knew I had to move out. And me commuting an hour to Turf, I was like, let me just move to Woburn, closer to the office. And I was so scared. Like, I never thought I'd leave East Boston. Like, I was.
You lived there for how long?
Almost 25 years. Besides having a roommate, I used to live in Revere, like when I was in high school. But I spent majority of my life in East Boston. So I was afraid. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what happens if solar doesn't work for me and then I can't go back to Shore Plaza? Like, what am I going to do? Like, that was my fear. But I don't know. Someone talked me out of it. They're like, you're going to be fine. It's okay. And I moved. It's
like the psychology of society where like you had this safety net.
It's like a lid. They put a lid.
Yeah. They put a lid. They put like this, they have like, you're like captured.
Yeah.
And you have this safety net that you become dependent on. Right.
Yeah.
And you're making good money at this point. Like you'd started doing well with solar. How much did you make with this?
Making $500,000 living
in government housing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're starting to make a couple $100,000 a year gross. And they're like, yeah, you have to show us your income every year if you want to still have subsidies and still get government housing, whatever. And you start panicking because you're like, if I show them my income, they're going to charge me crazy amount of money.
4K.
Mm-hmm. And isn't it like right away?
It was
like they just like adjusted the very next month or something like that.
It was very close to the timing, like from when I got paid. Yeah, like because from when I didn't get paid from my first 6 months, December to May, the month of May, it was like my first month out of Combine, I did 12 installs, but that month of May, I made $70,000
within your first year. This is like
first month. Like
okay. So once you got your first install. Then all of a sudden it was like the dam broke and you made $70,000 in May.
Like May, I did 6 or 7 installs and I made $70,000.
Talk about a change, right?
Yeah.
Just waiting, because like the thing.
What'd you do with all that money?
I paid off that credit card and everything that was due. I don't know.
Yeah. You just started knocking them out. Bang, bang.
Bang. Yeah. I was like, no more debt. I had to pay back my aunt because I had to borrow money from my aunt. That's the most important thing, I think, when people start. Like if you have financial problems, I know I shouldn't give it financial advice, but just open up a credit card. Figure it out until you get your install. Because like once it comes, it's going to continue to come if you consistently work. I just think that's the most important thing.
You just had a mentality that there was no option to fail.
No option B.
It was like, I'm figuring,
There was no way.
So you start making money. And then was that the moment that the belief in the job started happening, or did you really start believing it prior to getting those paychecks? Like when did like, I'm sure you had this belief that it was going to pay off for you, but when did that moment come where you were like, okay, this is a life-changing opportunity?
Yeah, there was a few moments. I think there was a moment, one of my first 10 installs, which was like helping me get out of the rut. I remember I was sitting at the Honda dealership because my car broke down, my Volkswagen, and I was like, I need to buy this Honda that I can't afford. So let's pray to God that this $10,000 install gets scheduled. That would have been my third install in Lawrence. And I was just, once that install happened is when I believed the job was real. And it wasn't my first or second install. It was like my third and my fourth because it was like a $10,000 check. And I was like, wow, like I knocked the door. I'm saving this homeowner money and I'm making good money and I can pay this car. Like that's when for me, it felt real. And that's when, I don't know, like my mind just shifted. I was like, I need to take as much advantage as I can. Yeah, it was just a very big change for me. It's kind of like surreal. Like it took a long time for it to feel real. Because I'm always like, how I grew up, I was just waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm like, when is something bad going to happen? when, just waiting. And even sometimes I'm like, no, Ashley, everything's okay, you know? Yeah, so that's just kind of how it happened for me.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you ever sit back and like you're laying in bed at night and you're like, man, life is pretty good right now, and it could have been so different?
Yeah, a lot.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, it's like imposter syndrome. Like, do I deserve this? Like, is this real? But like, everyone deserves to be successful. Everyone deserves like greatness and to be financially free. There's no reason why we shouldn't. You know, it just depends on the work ethic, I think.
Well, everyone that's willing to put in the work, right?
Yeah.
Because like nobody could argue that you don't put in the work. In fact, you're probably the hardest work and market leader that I work with. Like, you know, I have conversations with Eric where like, hey, we have to make sure that we keep Ashley in line because she's just trying to do everything all at once. And it's because she really wants to win. She really wants to succeed. She really wants to do the best job possible. And I think that's kind of like the X factor that all great leaders have is first they come in and they burn the ships, right? Like, I remember like talking to Ash, she's like, every single day I'm getting more in debt because I have to use this credit card. But never was there a day where she didn't work like she was gonna get, through that, right? It was just like a knowing for her. And it was, 6 months with no pay during the winter, it's really, impressive to be able to sustain that. What would be your advice for people starting solar now? Or, you run draft right now, right? And one of the best, drafts in the whole company. Like, what's your message to the new reps that are starting off in a similar position that you were in when you first started?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first thing is environment. Like, when I started, any people that are down talking the job, I was not around. To this day, if you down talk any of my co-market leaders or anything that is negative, I will not be around you. It could be in my East Boston friends that I don't really hang out with as much. Anyone, it could be family. Like, environment is the first thing, because that's what I think changed my life, was my environment. And the second thing I would say is excuses. Like, I didn't make excuses for, like, I don't think there's a reason we should have an excuse. Like, you have an opportunity, like, people would die for this type of opportunity. So I think it's making no excuses and not having a plan B, like working a side job or trying to figure out something else, some other way to make money. Like, if you just do the one thing is like go to turf and you do that for 6 months, like, you can be successful. Like, I always tell people that come in, give the job 6 months and you have to give 110%. Don't give 45%, 50%. I'm like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, if you're in, like, because I love doing draft. And sometimes I'm a little like, I'm not mean, but I'm like, don't half-ass, please. Because I'll put 110% of my effort into you, and I'll spend the extra hours. I'll do pitch feedback calls. I'll do mock training. I'll do whatever it takes to make you successful because I want your life to change. But just don't give me half-ass effort because I can't give you my full effort either, Well,
how do you measure that, though? Is it just hours put in, hours on the doors? How do you measure if someone's actually giving it their all or not?
I think it's hours, attitude, and environment. I see who people hang out with after the meetings. Are you staying around? Are you slouching during the meetings? Are you not taking notes? I think it's clear as day. I think people show who they are. Like, even like with trainings, like, I still listen to trainings. I'm still a student. And if you act like too cool for school, it's just your attitude, honestly.
Yeah. I visit a lot of teams, and I always, typically will like sit in the back of the room, like during the meeting, and just watch, the managers run the meeting. And I'm always so impressed with all of our people that we have. What gets me frustrated is when I am looking around the room and I'm paying attention to who is paying attention and who is taking notes and who is engaged and who's on their phone disengaged, right? And there's people who, I think the one that really kind of like gets me a little bit irked is when I see people that have been with us for a little bit who have had moderate success, but they're not anything special. They haven't like hit a high level. They've never hit 10 installs in a quarter even, or even 15 installs in a quarter. And they're not paying attention, or they're whispering to their buddy, or they're not like engaged, and they're being a little too cool for school. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking like, dude, this person is so much better than you in front of the room right now. And the fact that you're not paying attention, listening, taking notes, trying to improve, it's so infuriating. And it's like disrespectful also, right? And it's disrespectful to the trainer first and foremost, but it's also just like, it's just such a character flaw, you know? It really like bothers me. And I wish I could just smack them sometimes, you know what I mean? Like I want to be like, bro, like I want to just shake them and hopefully try to like get them to pay attention. But I always kind of say like, they just don't get it. I always be like, some people just don't get the opportunity they're missing. They don't understand how valuable these trainings are. So anyway, if you're listening and you're the person not paying attention in the meetings, just understand, one, your leaders see it, and they see that you're not paying attention. They see that you're not engaged. They see that you are disinterested. And what it does as a leader, and Ashley, you know, you're over the draft for your team. You can tell me this, but what it does as a leader is for me anyway, it makes me not want to invest any more time in that person.
100%.
So I'm like, if I can see that you don't care, then I'm good. I'm going to go spend my time on other people.
Yeah.
You know?
And like changing like the mindset, like, and I will say this here, like, I think some real, like, it's just the mindset. It's like every sales job, they're like, oh, I'll hear what they're saying. And it's like, oh, managers, they make money off of us. I'm like, no, we work 60 plus hours a week and we're here to help you. We spend countless hours. I was up till like 11:30 thinking of ideas for draft. Like there's so much stuff we do behind the scenes. And if you have that mentality, like, oh, they make all this big, like, no, we earned our spot here and we still show up every single day. Like I'm dressed for turf. I'm going to turf. Like what's your excuse? You're brand new in $1 million opportunity and you're at home at 2:30. And you want me to help you with an account at 4:00.
And you're wondering why you're not having success.
Yeah. Like I will not help you 2 to 8 for accounts. Mm-hmm. Like I tell them, hey, if you do this, this, and this, I promise you'll be successful. Do you promise me? I do this thing in draft. I'm like Girl Scout honor. Like, if you do this, I will make sure you're successful. Like I'm giving you the equation and the formula to success. I mean, I believe I am, and I hope I am. If you do that, it will work. And I've seen reps graduate draft, first round draft pick, or just be successful, hit their numbers by taking the notes, doing that, having a good environment, not having that negative mindset like we're trying to be your manager. Like I want to lead you and I want to inspire you and I want to give you the necessary tools to be successful. It's not about hierarchy. It's about working together and figuring out like your strengths, your weaknesses to get to where you want to be. Because that's the first thing I did. Like even to this day, like every quarter with Dawn, I'm like, hey, like what could I have done better? Like what can I do better? Like, you know, and like I feel like always being a student, no matter how long you're in the job, is like the key to success. Because things are constantly changing. We have to adapt.
I agree. I actually love, you know, every time I watch a training, no matter how short or long someone's been with the company, I feel like I learn something almost every single time. And on my phone, my notes on my phone are like filled with quotes and like takeaways from trainings that I see every time I'm visiting teams. So again, yeah, it's always super frustrating when I see people not engaged. And I'm like, man, like you're such a waste of space right now. You know, I've shared this before, but if you're a sales rep, I like talking about this with you because you are over one of the top draft programs, the top combine in the country. You know, Boston North is consistently in the top 5, we'll say, for, you know, combine and draft graduates. I always say, imagine that you are a stock. And if you were a stock based on your behavior, would you be a stock that your leaders should be buying or selling? And I even think about that with myself. You know, should the people above me in the company be buying or selling me as a stock? And the reason I like to think about that, and the reason why, by the way, the fact that our leaders make money on all the sales that happen on a team, whatever, if you're a sales rep, that's the way that you should want it. You should want, the only way that the people above you in the org earn any money is if you are successful, right? So it's like they're only, the managers only make money if you're successful. So
yeah, and newsflash, that's every sales job, ladies and gentlemen.
every sales job, yeah.
Every single sales job.
And by the way, pretty much every company, it's how it's structured in one way or another. I mean, your manager might be on a salary in some other company, but if he does a bad job, he gets fired, right? So we're just piecemealing the salary together based on our rep success. So anyway, but view yourself as a stock, and are you a buy or are you a sell? Doesn't mean you have to be crushing it to be a buy stock. What I look for is attitude, effort, engagement. Are you paying attention? Are you coachable? Like all those things, I'll buy that stock, right? I'm going to invest my time into that person, and that's me buying you as a stock, right? And so, but if I can tell that you're completely disengaged, I'm all set. I'm like, that's a sell. I'm going to let somebody else deal with that person, because I have all these little baby chicks that need to be hatched, you know what I mean? And that need raising, and I don't have time to waste time on someone who doesn't give a shit.
Exactly. And one thing too is like, I love when people share their stories on these podcasts and in general, like doing one-on-ones with the team members on our team. And what really separates people is the excuses they make. Because like, I don't come in here and like when I did the She Run, we did the She Run conference, told a little bit about my background, but like I personally like never asked for a pity party. Like Carla personally never asked for a pity party.
That's right.
Eric never asked for a pity party when he broke his leg in combine. This pity party, I'm so sorry. It's just, it has to go.
Yeah.
Because like, imagine like someone else like, hey, you have the opportunity to make a couple $100K a year, or even $1 million if you want, right? But you won't do it because something happened at home. You know, it's like any 9-to-5 job, any salary job, they're going to tell you, tough SHIT, you have to clock in at 11 o'clock today. So do you want to be that person, or do you want to be the person that can change their life and just show up? And, you know, I understand it's an attitude, 80% attitude in this job and your mentality, but it's figuring that out and getting past that to stay consistent in the opportunity, because like life's always going to be there. Like life's always going to crappy things are always going to happen, but like the excuses to not show up is like, that just it should be like non-existent. Yeah. You know? Like,
yeah. At what point in your life did you realize that, or did you have that light bulb moment that your circumstances, the lack of your dad being in your life, your mom's ups and downs, like at what point did you stop allowing all of the things in your life to stop being an excuse, to realize like, hey, like just because I've had all these things going on in my life for personal stuff, if I'm going to be successful, I can't allow this to be an excuse for me anymore?
Yeah, I'd say maybe 10th, 11th grade, because I feel like I was a little bit pity party, like with my mom, and like, it was just like kind of like victim mentality I had. But what I realized was like, there was no one coming to save me. My dad never even been on a plane. My dad's not going to change his attitude and be a father figure. Probably ever. I love him, but he's not going to, you know, do that. And my mom, I love her to death. She's not going to change at 64 years old. She is who she is. So am I going to continue to live under that, or am I going to change my future? You know, like I just felt like, hey, I'm in 10th grade, 11th grade. Do I want to continue to live in this environment, live in Shore Plaza for the rest? Like, I go there to see my mom still, and there's still people that still live there for 50 years. They're stuck there, sitting outside, doing their thing, people hanging out behind the trash. And like, when I seen that, it's exactly what I didn't want to do. Like my fuel is what like who I don't want to be. You know, like I want to raise my kids, God willing, in like a good environment, give them good advice, understand their feelings, make them like, it was more of what I didn't want. And I think that happened around 10th, 11th grade, where I was just tired of the rat race, like with my family. And like people, it was like a lot of assumptions too. Like people always thought I was going to be a certain type of way. Like I've had managers like, oh, Ashley, you've never been arrested? I'm like, no, I haven't. Not really. No, I haven't. Okay. Like the assumptions.
You're like, isn't that kind of society's bare minimum? Just not get arrested?
Yeah, like just don't get arrested. I'm like
that's pretty standard, I feel like.
Yeah, like how dare you? Like you make that assumption of me. And like when that person made that assumption of me, that really like grinded my gears. And I've had so many assumptions made from my teachers, my mom. Like, I'm nothing like you people, so don't treat me like that. And that for me was my fuel. And like, if there's anyone that has had that happen to them, you should just take the time to not even just to prove them wrong, but prove it to yourself. For me, it was, I just wanted to prove it to myself. I'm like, Ashley, I know I'm smart. I know I work hard. How far can I take it? And I think that's what everyone should try and like strive for.
Pretty awesome. Ashley, it's been awesome having you on today. Your story is so inspiring, and I love every single time I see you, and every single time I talk about you with Dawn, or they talk about you with me, and just anytime your name comes up, everybody smiles, and you just have such a great energy, and you bring so much warmth and like just light to every situation that you're in. Mm-hmm. And I think that's been a huge part of your success. You've managed to just always have a good attitude. You're always happy. And I know that you have your moments where, you know, you're down and you cry and all those things, but you just shake it off. You know what I mean? Like you just let it, you know, roll off your back, and you just keep going and you keep moving forward, and you do it with a smile on your face, and you do it with a good attitude. And that's going to get you a long way in life. Thank you. It's already gotten you this far, and it's going to keep getting you even further and further and further. So
thank you.
Really proud of you. You've been amazing.
Appreciate you. And I'm so grateful for you.
Appreciate you too.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks guys. Ashley Lograsso, Boston North. Go.
If you're listening to this and interested in joining our teams, DM us on Instagram at Run the League.
What are you waiting for? Run the league, shoot us a DM, and let's get going.
Why are we dropping?